Our next presenter is Derek Walter from the School of the Arts, and he'll be talking to us about earth and ice, capturing the melting of glaciers and polar caps in clay.
I thought this was going to be on Zoom. my deepest fears. Like every semester before it starts, I always have recurring dreams where I show up in my pajamas. I teach ceramics here, and I make functional work as well as sculptural work. I'm just going to be talking about the work that I've been working on for about the last 15 years or so, Earth and Ice. It's about addressing global climate change, because it seems like that seems to be the most important thing that's addressing humanity right now. So I wanted to try to reflect that in my artwork. So this was one, I've been working on these kind of sculptural objects with, and this is one that's kind of a breakthrough that kind of coalesced what I've been working through for a while, which is the idea of ice melting and water forming on top of the movement of ice. And they're all slab built. Everything you see is slab built. So just conceptually, just think of it as a pinky thickness of clay rolled out. If you went into Pizza Hut and you saw the dough waiting for the sauce and toppings, that's what you look at, just slabs of clay, and I cut and form them into these objects. And so this is the same object but a different angle. So I was trying to get this where you see the earth and the melting of the snow, trying to capture that moment. So part of my research, I like to travel a lot. And so this is up at Glacier National Park Bay in Alaska, where it's Marjorie Glacier. And so I was really intrigued with this scene, the way the juxtaposition of the ice coming down through the mountains and the ruggedness of the mountains and the ice. And so I started trying to combine these forms. I taught in China for a couple of years, and same as I taught and lived in Japan. So those two cultures have a lot of a rich history of ceramics. So I've tried to have where I'm using stoneware, clay, and porcelain, which was invented by the Chinese. And then I'm marbling the clay between the two. And marbling, the Chinese have been doing it for thousands of years. The Romans did it. They're very traditional techniques, and I'm interested in tradition. And then I have the celadon glaze, which is in Korea and China, celadon and porcelain is a very traditional combination. And what I'm trying to do also is spray a little bit of another glaze, so you kind of get that feeling of what ice looks like when it's melting. It has that little glossiness on top of the surface of the ice. And so this is another photograph I took of Marjorie Glacier, and I'm really interested in this kind of the jaggedness and the roughness of the ice coming down the glacier, juxtaposed with those mountains. I find that very intriguing. So I was taking porcelain and put celadon on, but I'm also really like, I'm a traditionalist in terms of sculpture. I like line, form, mass, volume, negative space. So when I'm putting these together, I'm thinking about that. And here's one where I took that same celadon glaze and I'm spraying, trying to get that melting effect on them with the forms. And you can see that also, just in terms of, I like aesthetically pleasing work. I like, to me, it's got to be that. It's not very interesting if it's not. For this body of work, I've done stuff that it doesn't matter at all what it looks like. I also like these kind of anthropomorphic elements to the sculpture, some movement with them, like this kind of element of like the ice sloughing off, this kind of movement, the calving of the glaciers. So I took a cruise up to Norway and going in the fjords, and I was really intrigued by the rough rockiness and the mountains and the snow, the kind of juxtaposition of the earth and the ice. And so what I transitioned, and I started with an iron-rich body of clay, which is the black clay juxtaposed with porcelain. And then you can see I'm trying to capture that mountainous effect of that with these. Also, they're named after different geological time periods. So this is the Pliocene series. And again, you can see where I'm taking the sculptures and putting one on top of another and having that kind of movement with them. And I kind of like a precariousness with like that stone up there on the top. It's a sculpture, but it has this kind of fall, and kind of like nature, like global climate change. We're getting into problems here. So I want something that's a little bit, when you're looking at it, there's a little bit of a nervousness to them about, like, is it going to fall over? but also playing with that negative space and the relationship to those. So then I moved them from the pedestals to the wall. I thought that'd be interesting to see what I could come up with. Same kind of technique, same clays, but they're just hung on the wall with, literally they're hollow, so they're pretty light, so just a drywall screw will hold them to the wall. But I also like that kind of precariousness where you have it kind of sloughing off, this kind of movement with them. And so last year I did a show at the Zoll Inman Gallery, and I did this as an installation. This is a 6 foot wide mural, and I was curious, what I tried to do was try to have it kind of go from east to west, where you got a lot of snow on the mountains, to where it's just it's melting and it's more earthy, and these are much more jaggedy and sculptural in terms of, and these are a little bit lower sculptures. So I want to just quickly show you how I make them. So the way I marble them, so if you think of a hamburger with a bun and a burger and a tomato slice and a lettuce slice and an onion slice, so I vary the I make a hamburger, I vary the slices, and then I wedge the clay, I fold it, and then you get the marbling, I cut it in half, and then I take the rolling pin and I kind of push the clay in different shapes so that I'm interested in it, and then I put it in a slab roller, and then these are the slabs I start cutting. And so once I got the forms, this is my studio at the Bridgeport Art Center, and then I start shaving them down. And this is the end. This last winter I went down to Antarctica, and this was one of the things that I find, like the direction where I'm going with my research, is trying to capture this relationship where you have these icebergs melting, you have the smoothness of the snow, and then you have this really rugged jaggedness of the earth coming up behind it. And this kind of juxtaposition that I find very interesting. And that's where I'm going with my research. So I'm downstairs if you ever want to stop by, and I've got some of the sculptures in my research place, and you're welcome. Thank you.